So I've been wanting to, let's see here, where am I at? Here we go. I've been wanting to actually kind of work through what the different roles would be in a, like in an ideal scenario for, let's say, an off-grid permaculture style intentional living community. What would be the roles? And knowing that some hats need to wear, some heads need to wear multiple hats and some hats need multiple heads, but really just kind of like taxonomy. Yeah. What's the taxonomy of this whole thing? So I broke it down by this idea of resources. So manpower, inventory, and procurement and waste, I was identifying as the resources. So that's manpower would be somebody that's more like leadership, administrative, doing training and safety, assigning chores, handling, managing accountability. Inventory management, major key role, everything from resource usage to whether that's water, electrical, whether that's food, supply levels and inventory levels, whether that's building materials or whether that's cooking materials. And then budgeting, financial, bookkeeping kind of fell that under inventory. I was thinking procurement, which would be whether they're going to the store and shopping, whether they're bartering, whether they're scavenging, somebody who is bringing the resources into the community that's needed. Waste, so this would be managing the output, right? Whether it's trash, recycling, composting, Greywater, Blackwater, Humanure, all those kind of fall under one maybe area. And by the way, like where this is coming from is, it feels like we have these like pathways, these CTE pathways that are being taught in educational institutions that are out of date. And like, I feel like we need to develop pathways for intentional living, pathways for the next economy. And so anyway, that's kind of what this is spawning from. So the next kind of grouping pathway would be maintenance, infrastructure management, that's construction, electrical, plumbing, mechanical tools, any sort of maintenance around that. Grounds, that's landscaping, mowing, sweeping, edging, chipping, watering, whether it's clearing the gutters or clearing the creek beds, like the idea of just kind of managing the grounds. And then the woods would be clearing, cutting, splitting, stacking firewood, kind of thinking through, this moves almost back into inventory management, but maybe less on the, hey, we need more woods, and maybe more on the, here, we're splitting and stacking the wood, however that ends up being divvied out. Husbandry, thinking through the orchard side, so less woods, more fruit trees, whether it's planting, grafting, pruning, watering. I think this would extend into any sort of berries as well. Livestock husbandry, so that's managing fencing, acquisition and care, the feeding, whether it's grazing, whatever it is, and then the harvesting of eggs or milk, ideally not to slaughter, but that's depending on whatever you're on. Beneficials, I see this also as husbandry, whether that's beekeeping, vermiculture, or whether it's creating habitats for hummingbirds and butterflies and ladybugs, right? Thinking through that, and maybe that's also pest control. I didn't actually add to the list. That's actually interesting. I didn't do pest control yet, so that would be right here, essentially, which is essentially the same thing, right? Pest control is your your butterflies and your bugs. Your bugs are your pest control, or birds. I don't know. That's something to be expanded into. Your gardening would be soil, whether that's preparing your beds, adding amendments, whether it's creating compost teas, whether it's weeding, anything related to the soil itself, and then splitting that out into greenhouse and garden, whether that's creating, planting seedlings, managing that, transplanting those, thinning, pruning. Maybe it's even seed saving, kind of as another, maybe even almost another kind of segment here, and then food extraction, whether that's just picking, right, picking berries, harvesting roots, and I extended this idea of roots into, and maybe the word isn't food, because like I was even thinking like, our echinacea plants, or thinking through like stuff that's less like top of mind as food harvesting, fruits and veggies. I guess you could do that in nuts, berries. And then, so, thinking through that, and then finally, kind of coming into interior. So this would be your domestic, cleaning, dishes, laundry, as well as your food preservation, dyeing, dehydrating, canning, pickling, whatever, or freezing, and then food preparation, meal planning, meal prep, and cooking. And then the final category, as I see it so far, would be community, and this would be physical health and wellness. So it's nutrition and preventative care, natural remedies, as well as if there was any sort of medical care liaison or medical care person. And then thinking through mental health and spiritual health. So that's counseling, worship and prayer, leadership, somebody that's kind of being that champion. Thinking through cultural. So this is maybe the residential assignments, less management like we had earlier with chore assignments, more thinking about living situation, residential assignments. Maybe they're creating a documentary of this, or managing, let's say, a YouTube channel or whatever it would be. Maybe they're having any sort of internal activities. Maybe it's like a game night, or maybe it's going on field trips, right? Do you think kind of it's morale, I guess? Maybe it's cultural / morale. I'm not sure. That's something interesting. And then community. So now this is external. This is internal. Now we're moving to external, and this would be community outreach. It's activities that are open to the public, right? So maybe that's something like an open house, a garden tour, or even being part of the community. So maybe it's involving in community support, and actually not even operating inside of the like volunteering, like community volunteering. Volunteering in the community, and then thinking through maybe they're operating like a community supported agriculture, or any kind of like maybe local business, local enterprise, right? Something along that line. So anyways, those are kind of some categories I was thinking through, but I'd love your help, helping me really kind of flesh these out and really clear about any blind spots that I have. I'm counting on my hippie friends to come through for me. So I can kind of keep moving with NurturedTribe. And for those of you that are curious what that is, it's actually a platform to manage intentional living communities. Think of it like Woof, right? Woof meets, let's say, an Airbnb hip camp / where you're able to kind of work to stay, hand, physical, or hand, head, or heart kind of thing. Be able to kind of come in and say, I want to come and do, gardening, or I want to come and do, marketing, right? Like how do we like blend that? Or I want to come and I just want to like be part of the community. And interestingly enough, like how do we blend, capitalism meets socialism? And I think that's kind of where our greatness would be within this community, because it would allow for true sustainability through ecological, economical, and emotional. And I think, ecological sustainability is important, but I think without the other two, it's not actually sustainable. Anyway, so would love your thoughts on those different categories, and hit me up if you want to learn more about NurturedTribe. Great, thanks, guys.